What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NBA to the Galaxy Pod, featuring your host. You can find me on Twitter at Scotty Drown. You can find my other hosts here at RTR30111. We are here. It's the night of the NBA Finals Game 1. Obviously, we're going to jump right into that, but we do got some fun topics in between here that we're going to get to discuss. I know we're going to get kicked off on the show here with one of the more fun topics before we dive right into the NBA Finals. But before we do that, guys, just make sure to hit that subscribe button to help support the show, help us grow, help us get our outreach out there further to more and more people. And on top of that, be sure to like and comment on the show as well. Share your thoughts in the comments, like Pastor Rems here. He says, "Let it go." Yeah, I feel you. It's been a long week of no NBA basketball, I guess you could say. WNBA has
Welcome
been
in,
missing.
Pastor. Welcome in, Pastor.
Pastor Rems, yes, sir. Welcome to the show, man. Thank you for commenting.
Amen.
Be sure to keep commenting, though. Just like Pastor Rems, guys, get in there in the comments with your thoughts. But Slim, I'm gonna throw it to you, my man. Kick us off here. What do you got for me? Because it's something I find actually very interesting from a non-biased perspective. I want to hear your thoughts, and then I'm gonna give you mine. I want to build up the suspense
Okay.
for you a little bit.
It was good, man. So obviously it's been a debate thing going on. You had Draymond on Shaq podcast, and they was debating, his Lakers versus the Warriors or whatever, how they would have went. So Rasheed Wallace chimed in and said his opinion or whatever. So basically, it led to the '04 Pistons versus the 16-17 Warriors. Now, to be non-biased here, I give the Pistons their props. I mean, I've always said this, or at least, in other words, thought that when you talk about like teams to win championships, I always said that the Detroit Pistons were the best defensive team to win a championship that I ever seen. Like those guys'
Yeah,
defense was
yeah,
beyond elite. Like some of the records they was breaking this season, probably whenever we broke again. I mean, they was holding guys to like under close to 70 points a game. And they had one hell of a lineup, Chauncey, Rip, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed, and Ben. And
personalities
Tayshaun,
on there too, man. They had
yeah, for sure.
some
Yeah.
good
Tayshaun Prince
personalities.
is actually one of the more underrated wing defenders to ever play in this league, man. Like he really
No, I
don't get
do
a lot
agree
of
with that.
props that he deserves, man, for real. And even Rasheed Wallace, like he's one of the more skilled guys to ever play this game, honestly. Like he don't get a lot of props that he deserves too. So I give him that props now. Diving into the conversation of like the '04 Pistons versus the 16-17 Warriors. First off, the main thing that kind of intrigues me the most is like, well, it kind of ticks me out, right? Is that when we had these debates, guys be so quick to say, well, who's Steph going to guard? When the real question is, who's going to guard Steph? I mean, you go back to those eras, bro, like, they didn't have to guard nobody like Steph coming off a million pin downs, chasing guys all around the court or whatever. So when you say, like, who's Steph going to guard, you got to guard him too. So, you can take each other out. You say you're going to put Chauncey on Steph, however it is, but that and then I say the X factors. Like we had the luxury of having guys like Sean Livingston and Andre Iguodala coming off our bench. When I look at that '04 Pistons team, I don't know nobody who can come off that bench and provide like offense or whatever. Whereas to us, like we had Sean Livingston who can get to the mid range and operate, shoot over the top of guys. You got Andre Iguodala. He was a starter, but he came off the bench for us. So ultimate glue guy can pretty much do everything on the floor. So when I look at those two guys, they would definitely be the X factors. And then not only that, like we would outscore them. Like as elite as their defense was, I still feel like even if Steph Curry had a bad shooting night, he would still finish the game with 19. Clay maybe 24, KD 29, Draymond 11, Zaza Pachulia 4, Sean Livingston 9 points, Iggy 8, David West 6, JaVale McGee 4, Ian Clark 6, and you add all that up, that's roughly around 120. Like that's on a bad. That's if Steph were to play bad that night, or you could switch it around. If KD were to play bad that night, we would still outscore them regardless. And that, and then like just the underrated version of us, like we had a lot of depth,
Yeah,
man. Like we had a lot of depth. Like we had D West, he was an older guy, but we still had him. We had Matt Barnes, young Kevon Looney. As I mentioned, Sean and Iggy. Like I don't think the Pistons would stand a chance, man. And that's just me being non-biased here. Like I just don't. they would give us a run for our money to a certain degree, but I mean, they would have to really guard us, man. Like we would, like our depth lineup would give those guys problem when we go small. Like Ben Wallace would have to come out on the perimeter, man, for real.
It's interesting, man. It's interesting. I definitely hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you, honestly.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there is part of me, it's like just different eras. So things were just officiated differently, more grabbing, different things on defense was
Right.
allowed in their time. Like they did win that championship off of defense. Like they were one of the best defensive teams in the NBA that year, one of the best defensive teams of all time, like you said. Guys like Ben Wallace, Tayshaun Prince that did put the straps on. I know people's argument, the big thing was you have Tayshaun Prince, who you could throw on Kevin Durant, and maybe he can affect or impact his game. It's Kevin Durant at the end of the day.
Yeah, man.
But no, I do feel you. I do wonder, man, just because there was a personality to the team of the Pistons, right? And I know it's talent over personality and, you know, working hard and everything like that. And the Warriors are a dynasty at the end of the day. So I do think when you look at it from a non-biased standpoint, not hating on the Warriors or not hating on Steph, yeah, you have to say the Warriors would ultimately win that matchup. But I do think it would be a hell of a matchup. I think we would get some good games out of it.
Oh,
Honestly, I do. Like, and they did have a couple guys off the bench. Like Corliss Williamson was all right. Mehmet Okur was all right off the bench. But to your point, they didn't really have like that guard impact off the bench outside of Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton. But yeah, it's interesting because you think about the way the NBA is structured now. It's like, what type of player would Rasheed Wallace be in today's NBA, like as a stretch big, like where it's more acceptable for him to stand out at the 3-point line and shoot the three and like not have a limit to how many attempts he could have in a game? Like imagine Rasheed Wallace with a Karl Anthony Towns like trigger, right? Like he was allowed to shoot the amount of threes that Karl Anthony Towns is allowed to shoot. It would just be interesting to see how they would adjust. But I mean, you're talking about the Warriors with Kevin Durant, man. This is one of the best teams of all time. So I don't really understand. I guess I do understand how it came up. Obviously, the things that Rasheed Wallace was saying, a couple of the other guys, but overall, it's just I don't know. I don't see why we would compare those teams, quite honestly. Like I do. I feel you. I really do. I think
man.
There's some interesting matchups mixed in there, but at the end of the day, it's just it's not going to go the Pistons' way, man. I don't know. Like, I think people are just getting tired of Draymond, man. They're getting tired of hearing Draymond talk. I think that's part of the problem, bro.
I don't know, bro. But I mean, we would just outscore them, bro. Like they wasn't shooting a lot of threes then back then, Scotty. Like, whereas to us, like Rip Hamilton back then was coming out strange, shooting a lot of mid ranges. And on our side, we got a guy by the name of Klay Thompson doing that, but he's pulling it from distance. And, you know, threes add up more than twos, so
no doubt. But I think when you say that, you do have to acknowledge that in this day and age, Chauncey Billups probably would have shot more threes. Rip Hamilton probably would have developed and worked on his three-pointer a lot more. It just, like you said, it's not just them that wasn't shooting that many threes at that time. It just wasn't that prominent of a factor as it is today. It wasn't really acceptable for guys like Steph to pull up from 40 feet or pull up from the logo and that just be like a normal shot, like outside of the, you know, the Reggie Millers of the world. But nonetheless, it's still point valid, dog. Like I said, like we can sit here, we can talk about this, and I'm treading lightly, you know, not trying to disrespect the Pistons, but I mean,
I'm not disrespecting by any means.
No.
One of my favorite teams to ever win a championship, bro. Like their defense was beyond elite, as I mentioned earlier. You know, shout out to those guys, though, man, for real.
It's really just Rasheed Wallace. I would love to see him in today's NBA. That's really my point.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I would love to see him with the ability to space the floor and work with like a really good point. I don't know. They're an interesting team. You look at it and you're like, damn, this is like an NBA champion. But they did strap up, man. Ben Wallace was mean on the defense.
Yeah, big baby Ben, man. Ben Wallace.
Man, but no. The other thing that we wanted to get into, the Lakers head coaching job. It's been an interesting search so far. I just wanted to comment on that. I wanted to get your thoughts, obviously, as well. Sounded like JJ Redick was going to be the coach, and then you wake up another morning and it's Hurley from UConn that's going to be the coach. It's a two-time national championship head coach.
Yeah.
Back-to-back seasons. So I did want to get your thoughts real quickly here before we jump into the NBA Finals. Is this the right direction? Do you agree with the direction to go towards Hurley coming after a college head coach versus going after JJ Redick? No real coaching experience in reality.
Yeah, I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, when you look at it from the perspective of like, okay, I mean, the past 4 or 5 seasons, the Lakers head coaching job has been like an in and out thing. Like, if something go good, you get all the praise. Something go bad, you get fired. So I can understand the approach that they're coming from as far as like, okay, well, if we're going to hire another coach this go around, let's try a different approach. A guy who coached in college, pretty successful guy. We can sign him a long term, help develop the young guys that we bringing in, or that we already got on the team, such as Max Christie and Rui and Austin Reed. But they're not that young, but they are kind of young in a sense as far as their experience in the league goes. But yeah, I actually like the approach. Honestly, I mean, it's something that I would definitely do. Like as I mentioned, sign him long term and see how things go. And if I read a few reports, and I think that Anthony Davis is actually on board with that, opposed to them hiring a guy like JJ Redick. So it's interesting, man, for sure.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, I do believe that JJ Redick's going to be a good head coach in the NBA. I do think he has a great basketball mind, but to your point, I'm kind of happy for JJ Redick as a Duke fan and as a guy that appreciates him. Not going there and you, like you said, falling on the sword, just like every other LA coach that if you don't win the championship has to fall on the sword and get blamed, be the excuse.
You get out of there, man.
Yeah, I think you get Hurley. Obviously, comes with a massive amount of experience, but at the collegiate level. But obviously, he's a winner, right? He's built a winning program. UConn hadn't been prominent for a little while there until he took the helm, and he took them to great places. So maybe he can do something there with the LA Lakers. Maybe they can get a UConn guy in the draft or something, rather than Bronny James, man.
Man.
They used a first round pick on this, man. It's going to be wild, but I can't say I would be surprised at this point. But the Lakers, man, they're going after Hurley from UConn, two-time national championship head coach. That being said, man, let's get into what's really on hand today. What today is really about, and that's the NBA Finals Game 1 between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks. You obviously have the Dallas Mavericks visiting the Celtics in Boston for games 1 and 2. How are we feeling tonight, man? How are you feeling going into this series? Do you feel like this is going to be a good series? Do you feel like one team has an advantage that you see? Like, where are you at with this series right now? Just holistically. Let me correct myself there.
Yeah, holistically. It could arguably go down as one of the greatest series ever. I mean, I say it'll go to a game 7 for sure. I definitely feel that way, but I mean, you talk about the firepower on both sides. When you got Brown and Tatum and Kyrie and Luka, and all those guys are surrounded by elite role players. Everybody on the team know their roles. So, I mean, to say do another team has an advantage, I would probably give it to Boston for the simple fact that they do have a guy in Kristaps Porzingis who can, actually Drew Holiday too can, mess around and get 20 a game because he has shown that he can do that in previous years. Same thing for Porzingis too. So I would get a Celtics an advantage in that aspect, but other than that, I mean, I just don't see a clear-cut advantage on either side, But yeah, man, it should be a fun series to say the least.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. I think it's going to be a great series for a couple of different reasons. But when you look at these two teams, man, they have about 6 guys that they can really, really, really rely on going into this series. So when you look at Boston, it's Drew, like you said, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis back tonight, like you said, and then Al Horford, obviously off the bench. They have a couple other guys, Peyton Pritchard, different guys
Sam
like
Howes,
that.
Taylor, man.
Yeah, a couple 3-point shooters, right? Some gunners off the bench. But then you go over to Dallas, you got Luka, Kyrie, obviously, PJ, Derek Jones Jr., Gafford, and then Lively off the bench as well. And then you get into guys like Josh Green and Hardy that were able to make their impact in the last round against the T-Wolves. So these guys got a little bit of firepower off the bench. They got great starting lineups, guys that complement each other really well. But at the end of the day, man, this is a 64-18 Boston Celtics team. Like this is supposed to be one of the greatest teams, not of this season, but of all time. And so to that point, I'm going into this and I'm saying it this way. The Boston Celtics, undoubtedly the favorites. Like you said, they would be the ones that have the more mismatches in the series. But there's one thing that's like holding me back from just saying, it's Boston's time and, Tatum for finals MVP, so on and so forth. And it is that clutch gene, that clutch moment of when it may not happen, but what if Al Horford and Derek White and Drew Holiday, what if they're just not hitting the shots for Boston tonight? I know it sounds crazy because that's a lot of different names I threw out there to not be hitting. But there's always a point in a series and big moments and championship contending moments where the star player on the best team has to show up and has to come through in that moment. Can Jason Tatum give them a 35, 40-point performance in the NBA Finals? Not in the Eastern Conference Finals, not against an Eastern Conference opponent. In the NBA Finals on the biggest stage, can he show up and give them a performance? Like I said, they may not need it. Maybe Jaylen Brown is that guy and he goes off for 35 or 40 in one game, and he's that guy. Maybe it's not needed, but I say it that way because I trust Kyrie Irving and I trust Luka Doncic a whole lot more than I trust Jason Tatum and even Jaylen Brown.
I mean, that's a fair enough point. I mean, it's like this, man. For some reason, I just feel like the Celtics will get it done. Like, I think this is those guys' year, man. I think Tatum, he's going to ball out in this series. He's going to probably have his best playoff series he's ever had. He's going to do what he needs to do, go out there and get it done. And as you mentioned, like with the Horfords and the Drew Holidays and everybody else, if those guys aren't making threes, it's definitely going to be tough. But the one thing I like about the series is that you can always make adjustments. So even not just necessarily a series, even in games, like you can just make the right adjustments that need to be done. Like, so it'll be interesting to see. But I think Tatum get it done, man. I just feel that way for some reason. I think he hear all the noise that, his legacy is on the line and, Luka the better player and all this, but we'll see how it goes. But, man, we got to have a conversation, man. You be kind of hard on your boy Tatum to be a Duke guy, man. Come on, man.
He's a Boston Celtic, man. I can only mess with him to a certain extent, though. I'm just being completely honest. Yeah. I can't stand Boston. I really can't.
I mean, that's fair enough, I mean, as a Warriors fan,
that's really what it comes down to, bro. Like when Kyrie was on Brooklyn, I was not really messing with Kyrie at that time either. Like I'm not gonna lie about the times and my motives and why I do things the way I do them. Hey, it's because I just didn't like them at that time.
Yeah,
if Tatum goes to the Western Conference or if he comes to the Sixers, then so be it. Yeah, I'm a big Tatum fan. Always been a fan since he was on Duke.
I understand too. I mean, I've had as a Warriors fan, the fair share of battles with the Boston Celtics fan on social media, especially during that finals matchup.
Like, no doubt. Yeah. Nah, I don't even hate on Tatum though. I just think it is kind of what it is. Like he's had these teams around him. He has not won a championship. He's not being held to the same standard. But I think this season, he was held to that standard. It's that time where it's coming around. And the same thing can be said for Luka coming soon. It's not this season. It's not this one. But after this season, right, if they don't get back to the Western Conference Finals next year, or if they don't get back to the NBA Finals next year, we'll be having that conversation about Luka. Is he going to show up when they get to the finals? Can he get them back to the finals? So on and so forth. To your point, if you want to pick do you want to pick winners right now? Do we want to make our prediction? You kind of already did, so I can give you mine as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going with the Celtics.
So. And you said in 7, so I do feel you. I even think I'm picking the Celtics as well. So just to be clear here, I know I led in with the Mavericks talk,
man.
and I want the
Wow.
Mavericks to win. Blatantly, I'll put that out there. It's out in the open. I want the Mavericks to win this series.
Yeah.
But I look at the Celtics, man, and like, why shouldn't they beat them in 6 games? Like, you have Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, who averaged like 30 points, and he can average 30 points in a series if he wants to. Like, if he wants to put his head down and get to the rack and get buckets.
Yeah.
You have Jason Tatum. As much as he's hated on, this man will grab you 30 points and 10 rebounds a night. Then you have Al Horford, who can give you just 5 3-pointers out of nowhere in any random game.
Yes.
Any random game. Derek White, same thing. He's a do-it-all guy, though. He can be a playmaker. He can hit 5 threes in one night.
Ultimate glue guy, man.
He defends well. Then you go to Kristaps Porzingis. This is a former All-Star. He's coming off of injury, so we have a little doubts about Kristaps, but he's been a seamless fit for this team all season. And once again, 64-win team, man. Like, I was surprised to see them struggle. They swept the Pacers. Each of those games were close. You could argue that the Pacers should have won maybe 2 of those games if they didn't make mistakes down the stretch. I don't think it should have been like that, and I don't think this should be – you know what I mean? Like, I think the Celtics are the best team when you look at them on paper. And so to that point, I can't pick against them in this moment, I feel. As I haven't all postseason, obviously, given their opponents. But even in this moment, you look at the matchups after Luka and Kyrie, who's going to score the ball? Who's going to give them 20? 25.
Do you feel like PJ Washington can get you a 20?
Maybe. But he was suspect against the T-Wolves. He was very inconsistent.
But he did hit some timely shots, though.
He did come up clutch. I will give him that.
Shots, so
Derek Jones Jr., like, he can score 20.
Yeah, I was gonna say Derek.
But are you counting on that? I would put my money on Derek White scoring 20 plus points in at least 2 of these games.
But, fair enough. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a great point you bring up. So look at it from this way. If you're the Celtics, would you rather Luka and Kyrie just get theirs and just live with it? Or would you just say, you know what, our defensive main attention going to be on Kyrie and Luka, make everybody else beat us? What approach would you take? Like, would you live with PJ and Derek and Gafford and Lively if they're scoring 15 plus points? Or would you just say, hey, man, we're just going to let Luka and Kyrie get theirs and just, make sure the other guys don't get involved at all?
That's a great question. And it's I want to tread lightly here, but I do think you go the route of making the other guys beat you. So letting Derek Jones Jr. open a little bit in the corner, right? Helping off of him. I do, at the end of the day, when you look at, like, when you play Luka and Kyrie, that duo in the backcourt, if you let them start to get off, right? Like, if Luka's hitting 3-point shots from the logo, or if Kyrie's hitting fadeaway 3-pointers off the dribble, and they start to get their team going, then you're going to start seeing them get into the lane, because guys are going to come up on the 3-point line. They're going to scoop past them, get in the lane, and start finding, guys for open alley-oops, Gaffords and the Livelies of the crew. And then life's going to get tough because the momentum's going to start going Dallas's way. Whereas I feel like if you just make it the point to go at Luka and go at Kyrie and don't let them get hot. It seems impossible for that not to happen, by the way. But when you look at the Celtics, they have some of the best guys you could ever throw at these guys defensively. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that are going to stop them, but Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, even Jason Tatum. These are all guys that are plus defenders, man. So it's interesting. But to that point, I don't mean to say like the Mavs don't have a chance. I don't mean it like that. I do think there's going to be close games in this series. I do think the series ends up close. I just think the Celtics are going to come away with it, man. I think they just have too much talent this time. Like the Kristaps Porzingis, the Drew Holiday, it's just too much. Like when you look at the matchups.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like if I'm the Celtics, like as far as going Kyrie and Luka,
Yeah.
I would do more so like a duo thing. Like you can do Brown and Derek White on Kyrie, and then Luke. I
Yeah.
mean, then
Split
Tatum, and
time.
then Tatum and Drew on Luca, just to get those guys different looks. Derek White, pretty fast guy, keep up with Kyrie. Then you can throw
Yeah.
Brown on him to get physical with him or whatnot. And then with Luca, Tatum, tall guy, got some length, get physical with him as well. And Drew
See,
Holiday, strong as hell, can hold his own against bigger guys. So
and the other thing with that, right, as you're laying out those matchups, these guys are going to have to guard people this series, and that does worry me as well, right? Like you look at the last series and you look at like the Rudy Gobert's and the
oh yeah, they're gonna have to guard.
Kyle Andersons of the world, even the Jaden McDaniels after game one. I mean, he wasn't shooting the three ball like he was in game one after that.
Yeah.
When you look at some of the guys that they really just didn't have to stick to on the defensive end, they were able to contain a guy like Ant Edwards to an extent, right? But yeah, man, I don't know. I think that could weigh in on this as well. Just having to guard, like, who's getting the off night of following Derek White around? Like that's the guy, that's the non-star on the offensive lineup, right?
Yeah.
Like you get the easy matchup tonight. You get Derek White. You get to chase him around the 3-point line and chase him around screens all night. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know,
And
man.
not even also that, but then like even Kristaps Porzingis, he's a guy who can shoot threes. That's
Yeah,
different
that's a
opposed to Rudy
mismatch.
Gobert. So
Yeah,
Gafford and Lava, they got to come out to the perimeter now. So
yeah,
it's going to
absolutely.
be interesting, man. But did you see
This
that
is
reporter asked Drew Holiday that question, bro?
nah. What would they
he,
ask?
he um he said, "What do you do to stop Kyrie?" And Drew Holiday said, "Pray." That was funny, bro. Which he ain't
He's
lying
not
though. I
lying
mean,
though.
you got your work cut out. I mean, I said this, I think a few weeks ago we was on the pod, but hey man, I know that the Celtics fans going to boo Kyrie, and that's going to be cool, but man, y'all need to watch yourselves, man, because y'all not the ones guarding that man. So, spare whoever guarding him, Derek White, Drew Holiday, just spare them for, at least one game. Come on, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's like the outlier is the Luka and the Kyrie ceilings. Like what are they? Like where do they stop? Like how do you stop them? Like could they score it 80 points combined in one night? They almost did against the T Wolves. So and you
Yeah.
look at the T Wolves, that's supposed to be one of the best defensive teams in the league this season, right? The best if we're talking about the statistics. I wanted to ask you kind of in reverse in a sense, though, but when you look at the Dallas Mavericks, and I do want to just point out, I have this comment pulled up here before I move on from that. I do agree with this. I think Jason Kidd has done a great job this postseason, this season, especially with Kyrie and Luka, kind of just giving them the freedom, but then being willing to make some adjustments with the rotation, the lineups as well. And we've seen Joe Mazzulla in spots where he just hasn't done what he's supposed to, but I don't know. He's looked a lot better this year. It's hard to make a mistake with the talent that they have on that side. But looking at it from the other perspective, if you're the Dallas Mavericks tonight, are you looking to kind of focus on offense? Like, are you trying to make sure the ball gets through the net and that you're keeping up with the Celtics? Or are you trying to focus more on the defensive end where you want to kind of slow them down, maybe not try to match their fast pace, put up as many threes? Like, which route do you think this goes? I have a feeling it goes the offensive route, but I'm just curious what you think
Um,
the Mavs should do.
I mean, me, I'm being biased here just because I love defense, but
Yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna go with defense because I mean, whoever win this game, you can look at the box score and say, okay, well, Tatum finished with 25 and Brown finished with 23. But what you can't allow to happen is if Drew Holiday has 20
yeah,
or Derek White has like close to 20. So it has to be more of a defensive thing. Then not only that, you're on the road, so a lot of road players going to be hitting their shots. At least you would hope anyway, with them being at home. So I would say definitely just try to contain, Derek White and Drew Holiday and not let them get off to a hot start.
yeah. No, I do feel you. It's kind of the opposite in a sense with the Celtics. It's like you don't want those other guys to start
Nah,
going off
nah.
because it's going to make it a long night. Like I said, man, we've had nights where Al Horford has like ended games for certain teams, you know, with a streak of 3-point made shots, which just makes me want to throw up. But nonetheless, Martian Lynch says Porzingis also has to face Luka, Kyrie pick and roll action.
That's a good point.
Luka and Kyrie, they're going to have to be masterminds in this series. They're going to have to be one of the best duos, like everybody's building them up to be, right? Like how they have played throughout this postseason. They need to show that and more, I believe. I think they have to be better than what they've been. I don't think you can afford to have, you know, Kyrie Irving 4-point halves. I don't think you can afford to have that type of stuff. So, yeah, I do agree. If I had to pick like star for star, you can argue. I mean, somebody tried to argue that Kyrie was better than Jason Tatum. I can't remember who said that. Maybe it was Isaiah Thomas. I can't remember specifically, though. I don't want to get that wrong. But he was arguing that Kyrie Irving is the better player than even Jason Tatum. So if that's the case, then we would be saying Luka and Kyrie are the best two players in the series. I don't know if that's true. I'm not going to argue that, but I would take their two stars over the other two. But even then, it's a close conversation. Then you add in the rest of those guys, and you do pick-ems between those guys, and then you really find out. That being said, man, tonight specifically, game one, how are you feeling about tonight? Who do you think takes the game one in Boston tonight?
I think the Mavericks steal game one. I feel like it will come out firing on all cylinders and even take advantage of like Kristaps, because this is the first playoff game in over like a month, right? So
yeah, since the first round.
I feel like, I don't know if he's just ready yet. We maybe take a game or two, but I feel like the Mavericks are rolling in hot, and you know they just came off a hard-fought series against the Timberwolves, so they had a long week rest. So I feel like they'll be ready.
I can definitely see that. And you, I believe you called that last round as well. And they actually did go into Minnesota and beat the T-Wolves. I'm going to go against the Mavs again here. I'm not a Mavs hater. I'm not. I really am not. I'm rooting for them. I want them to win. I'm hoping that, like, maybe my bad luck can go on to the Celtics if I pick them. I'm going to pick the Celtics here. Yeah. Like, I'm a Sixers fan. So maybe some of my Sixers and my love for them can go into the Celtics and make them lose. That's what I'm hoping for. Nonetheless, I am going to pick the Celtics tonight at home. I think, like you said, with this series specifically, I think it applies to tonight as well. Jason Tatum come out, have a big game tonight, and they try to make a statement from the jump. It's going to be interesting to see how the week of rest did for each of these teams, though. Like you said, Dallas had a little bit longer of a series, but still got a week off. But maybe that does help them, you know, having less time off than the Celtics did. So it's going to be interesting, man. Who's your player of the game?
Player of the game. I think D-Live, man. I'm gonna go D-Live. I feel like he can come
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with D-Live, man. Yeah.
I like that. So I'm gonna go with the guy that annoys me the second most on the Boston Celtics, and that's gonna be Derek White, man, because this man just hits annoying shots. It's annoying when Derek White hits 4 threes and you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown scoring 30. Like, and then Derek White hits 4 threes if you leave him open. I think the Mavs will come out. They'll try to, you know, put some attention on Jason Tatum. They'll probably get Derrick Jones Jr. first there. Maybe you mix a little bit of PJ Washington in there as well. I don't know what they'll try to do with the length there.
Yeah,
but
so if you put Jones on Tatum, then you would put PJ on.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. Like PJ, don't get me wrong, he has shown that he can, you know, move his feet on defense. But I don't know,
Jaylen.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't know about either of them, honestly. But I don't know. He did. Who did he guard in the Minnesota series?
He guarded Cat.
A help defender,
but
right?
You know, if I'm being honest, man, like I think Cat let PJ get away, man. Like he was settling for too many threes, bro. Like, come on, man.
You saw, like, it was in the second half of that game 5 or game 6 in that series. No, they only won one game, right? So game 5.
They won one. Yeah, they won.
Yeah, so game 5. In the second half, the game was already over, but Cat just started going in the paint and cooking, and that's what he needed to do.
Yeah, that was game 4, I believe. because they avoided getting swept, if I'm not mistaken. So.
No, he started cooking at the end of game 5 too.
Oh,
He
yeah,
did
yeah,
cook.
yeah,
He
okay,
hit some threes. He got hot at the end of game 4. You are correct. But in game 5, he sucked the whole game. He shot the ball horribly. But then he started stat padding at the end, getting in the paint,
Yeah.
And maybe that was Dallas just saying, go ahead, Maybe that's
just
what
go
that was
ahead.
at that point.
You need it anyway.
Yeah, but
That
I
came
do
over
feel
funny,
you.
bro.
Like, Jason Tatum's not going to give PJ Washington any breaks if that's the matchup. Like,
yeah, at least he
foul
shouldn't
trouble.
sell. But I don't know, because you got to know personnel here, and Tatum can get in those modes where he can be confusing, like
Jacking up shots.
Yeah, get the shooting contested threes.
Yeah,
like I don't
you
know,
ain't lying, man. But that's how we'll know. That's how we'll know if he's mentally shrinking. If he's not getting in the paint, if he's not making layups, if he's not getting to the foul line, we know that he's shrinking right there. Maybe he gets hot from the 3-point line, but I know exactly what you're talking about when he starts jacking up like fadeaway mid-range contested jumpers, and then contested 3-point shots, man. It's like you're like 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" or something. Like, you can get in the lane every single time. You have a great handle. You do have the threat of scoring from anywhere. It just doesn't make sense sometimes. But to your point earlier, we're supposed to see the real Jason Tatum tonight. We're supposed to see the guy that's ready to win his first NBA championship. I hope not. But
go get it done, JT, man. Go get you one, brother.
Marshawn Lynch says the Mavs win 110-102. Luka's going to have 42. I like it, man. There's part of me that does feel like Kyrie Irving, like you talked about, like going back to Boston, they're going to heckle him. He could have a big night. He could be locked in. That can also turn sideways, though. He could have a horrible night, right, in Boston. It could turn sideways to that extent as well. But
yeah, you got a point. I mean, he is. I seen a graphic. He actually lost his last 10 games against the Celtics. So
interesting. Yeah, they have great matchups for him, honestly. Like Drew Holiday is one of the better guys you could have. Derek White, he's another one of the best. Even if you have to throw like a Jaylen Brown on him with his length and athleticism.
Yeah, get physical with him,
Yeah.
And also, just thought about it. Kyrie did get swept by the Celtics a few years ago.
On the Nets. Yeah.
On the Nets, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. He has a better team now, right? A better team now. I don't think KD. I don't remember. What team was that with? Was that with KD?
Yeah, it was KD.
He was healthy?
Harden got
maybe Harden wasn't healthy.
No, everybody was healthy. I think
they
because Harden got traded to the Sixers. Then, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about now. So you're talking about the post Harden, Brooklyn Nets. I got you. Yeah, man. We'll see. We'll see what Kyrie's on tonight, man. Hopefully, it's going to be the beginning of a great series. That's all I want. In reality, I don't. Well, I want the Mavs to win, but I want a great series overall. That's what I want.
Yeah, man.
Great basketball.
We got to get those Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals, man. We got to get Joel back in there. But I mean, for the first time, he has to get there sooner or later.
I'm losing dignity, faith, confidence.
Yeah, but before we do get out of here, I mean, quick thoughts. 2019, Al Horford max contract. What are your thoughts on that?
You already know how I feel about Al Horford. I hate him. I hate him. It's part of the
shout out his agent, though. Shout out his agent. He got him the bag.
Forget him. Hey, at least we traded him. We got him out of here. Ended up being. I think it ended up having to do with
Green.
The Danny Green pick or the Danny Green trade, and then we got a pick along with that as well. So made the most of it, I guess, at that point. But he seems to have some juice left now that he got back to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I hate them. I hate that dude. 100%, bro. But let's get out of here, man. Yeah, I hate him more than Tobias. I hate Tobias from a player standpoint, but I hate Al Horford on a personal standpoint. It's not personal with Tobias.
His sister going to tweet at you on X, man. You might want to be careful.
Yeah, she's blocked. That's the thing. She's blocked. I can't stand her. She's part of the disdain as well, bro. Like, I hate that family. That's the best way to put that.
Yeah.
Hate that Al Horford family.
Yeah.
Never thought I would be here in like 2024 hating Al Horford and his family, but
who would have thought, man? Like, man, here we are.
All right, guys, let's get out of here. Please enjoy game one of the Mavericks at Celtics tonight, NBA Finals 2024. This is the NBA to the Galaxy pod featuring Slim Man there. You can find him on Twitter at RTR30111. You can find myself, Scotty, at Scotty Drown on Twitter. And be sure, before you guys hop off of here, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help us grow here. Help support us.
Yes, sir.
And we will see you early next week to recap games 1 and 2. Yeah, games 1 and 2, because game 2 is Sunday, and then game 3 is not until Wednesday. So they're a little more spaced out. So we'll see you guys on Tuesday, most likely evening. So we'll preview game 3 and recap games 1 and 2. Peace, everybody.
Yeah. Peace.